And I am here with our 2022 men's scouts. We've got Mark Acomb, Brett Furlong, Jeremy Lapierre, and Frankie Giannetto. And we're going to give you guys a little wrap up of to what it was like this year at the Combine. They're about to get to work making the tough decision on who's going to be on both our foam team, our cloth men's team, as well as our co-ed team, which that announcement will come a little later. In the meantime, I just wanted to get you guys together, ask you a couple of questions. Like starting off, what do you think was the most challenging part of selecting teams this year? I mean, there was obviously COVID, there's obviously a short time period, but what was the most challenging part of selecting teams this year? Why don't you go ahead, Mark?
I think one of the most challenging things this year was just kind of getting players back from the pandemic. We're missing a lot of players from our last Team USA, so we're having to evaluate and open the books up to a bunch of new players coming into the game that weren't there previously. I had my eyes opened during the Combine. So I think the hardest thing on my end is really getting to know a bunch of new players and not starting from scratch, but at least we've got a good base to build off of from years past.
Nice. Having been involved in the process before, Brett, what are your thoughts on that? Compared to a normal year? In
a normal year, we see these players play in countless tournaments throughout the year. So you kind of get a general idea of how players perform in certain situations and just how they play overall. With pretty much the 2 years off, getting people into the gym and trying to scout them on short notice was tough because you're trying to weigh who is just rusty and who maybe took advantage of the time off to get fit, improve their skills. And then, we were pretty much open to a lot of skills and abilities and on those invites, and then getting them into that gym and again, just trying to figure out what's rust and what is actual playing, and then continue going from there. So a lot of good surprises, a lot of validating what we saw. It's just tough trying to figure out what's what given the short notice, but I'm fairly confident we did a very good job at doing all of that.
I mean, I know you guys have done a great job so far, especially working with what you've got. Frankie, what did you think about kind of the north, east and southwest tryouts? I mean, I know in the past we've had multiple opportunities to scout people doing foam, like the classics or some other foam events, and this time we just kind of had to lump them regionally and see what we could do. What was that like for you this time?
Yeah, I think it was good to give everyone an opportunity to try to get in front of us, because it has been almost 2 years since we've seen some players play. We did have to take into account some prior knowledge, and I think me personally, I was hoping for some confirmation, some hunches based on past performance to see if people still kind of fit what I was looking for. But I was still pleasantly surprised by a lot of people at the event I went to in the Northeast in Erie, Pennsylvania. And I'm sure that Jeremy and Mark also had a lot of surprises in the Southwest in Vegas. And I think we were able to get, almost 100 people in the gym over the 2 days. And it was a really good group across both men's, women's, and then foam and cloth.
Yeah, we had about, I think, 130 on average, 100 to 130 in both the Southwest and the Northeast events. I know maybe only a small percentage of them were actually trying out. Jeremy, was that hard for you to kind of decipher who's what? And did you see anybody that you went up to and were like, why aren't you trying out?
Yeah, I mean, the scouting aspect is always tough, especially, there's only so many spots to fill. And being focused in the West, being familiar with a lot of the West players, the talent pool within the talent pool in this sense is also deep. So it's always tough to find out where you have to draw the line. But ultimately, I think, we landed in a good spot with a lot of newer faces, a lot of first timers at this Combine. And yeah, I'm excited for where the progress is headed.
Nice. Besides just the time crunch and the logistical limitations, how about coming back after a pandemic to field 6 teams? Now that's crazy. Did that add anything to the stress or to the process or anything that you guys, how did that affect you guys? Anybody?
I actually kind of enjoy it. We usually had a system where we had 40 players show up to the combine, and we would have to crush everything we can into getting 12. Now we've got the luxury of, hey, we've got a bunch of players that can earn spots, but ultimately when we had to weigh them against each other, we had to lean one way or another. So now we can literally put together 2 great teams. So some players fit perfectly in the foam space, some players fit perfectly in the claw space, and we've got even the luxury of having a few players that can cross over easy, and we're just being able to slot them in what we think is the best spot for them, you know, based on their preference or, you know, just team chemistry and cohesion.
Were you guys seeing a lot of crossover? Were you seeing a lot of people that were pretty versatile and could be placed on either team, or did it kind of end up being after the combine a little? I mean, I guess for the majority, was it easy, or what was that like? Again.
I think I found it a little easier this year. I think we've got a handful of people that can go either way.
Now we've had this is our 3rd combine. Anything for the last 2 years? How was this process? How is it improved? What would you change for the future? I know that this was Jeremy's first one, and I kind of asked him this already in a separate interview. Frankie, I didn't get to chat with you. Like, how has this improved for you since the last 2?
Yeah, so I think going into it, we had a pretty good idea of how to approach foam. We've had a lot of success in the past, 3 golds and 1 silver there from our 2 committees. So I think going into foam, it was trying to determine how to carry that across to cloth, and maybe how we would run the combine, which I think we did a pretty good job at. I think something we definitely improved on was kind of the structure around the combine. We had some group stretching this year. We had some moments where drills were done with larger groups, so we could really, hit the motivation there and have everyone like cheering and having a good time. I think it was exciting adding all the new variables with cloth and some trying out some of the co-ed mix up towards the end of our scrimmages. And I look forward to continuing to adjust and improve those facets of our combine.
Awesome. Anything, Mark, you would want to see again, or anything that stood out to you in particular about this time?
I mean, I actually enjoyed the new venue. I think Denver was a welcome change. I personally didn't feel the what was it, the
altitude,
air differential, altitude.
Yeah, altitude.
There's definitely always things we can improve on, but I think this year was a pretty good year of putting people through the paces. We definitely gave people a large amount of dodgeball, and as I say every year to the people, and this is the feedback I always get, it's the best day of dodgeball of the year.
I mean, it's pretty awesome, and I hate to go from that to our next question because I feel bad for anyone who misses out on the combine. But what advice do you have, for people who didn't make the combine? Furlong, if you have anything, or anybody wants to chime in on that one. What advice do you have for people who didn't make the combine? And you can't just say try harder.
It's tough to make this team. There's no doubt about it. When you get everyone in a room, just creating a top 10 list is hard. And then, you might have 10 great players, but we need to make a team that we know is going to work well together and represents USA correctly. So a lot of the players who do make that top 10 We see that in the star system that we've created with the drills. They're at the top of the list. They're training year round for dodgeball. They're not just going to the gym every now and then. They're not showing up to some dodgeball tournaments. They're actively playing foam dodgeball events. They're training specifically for it. I know 2 people who have attended had torn labrums in the past, and their arms are incredibly strong because they're sitting there with bands all the time, strengthening their arms, getting better. So it's more than just play more. You have to be actively training for dodgeball, and we see it when we go into these late scrimmages at the end of the day. And most notably here at Denver, the altitude definitely started to kick some butts. That we go into deep water when we're playing hard for long stretches, and you see the players who are waning and the players who are still just getting kills, being effective, dodging balls, active on the court at the very end of it, and the people who are taking games off because they need a break because they're not in shape. The time to be in shape is not at Worlds, it's at the Combine, and it's well before that. So we need your best here to put you on the team. And that's just part of it. I mean, there's a lot more that goes into, I think, just playing dodgeball, winning dodgeball. Like, we notice who's winning scrimmages, we notice who's losing, and who's winning one-on-one battles. It's all those little things that come down to it when we're picking the 9th and 10th of that top 10 list. It's this guy at the very end, his ball was hitting the bleachers in the back because he couldn't put it on a guy. And we know the other guy may be hitting because he's taking it seriously and trained very hard for this moment. So, and that's just some stuff. Everything is a case-by-case basis, but I think that's the general thing that we notice amongst who we pick and who does not get picked for the team.
I kind of said it a few times, but not only are you out there trying out for the team in a group of what, like 36 to 40 players, and there's 10 to 12 spots maybe, but you're also not trying out for just 10 to 12 open spots. It's a team, like you said. We need corners, we need people who can be stronger arms, we need to find a balance. So you're kind of trying out for the spot that fits you best, which narrows it down. There may, out of 40, there might only be 8 other people that play like you, in my perspective, and only spot for 1, if that makes senes. Is that something that you guys kind of take into account as well?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
no, we have to. Sorry.
No,
Oh,
yeah, I was looking for anybody, so you're good. Anybody to
Yeah, I mean-
validate what I just said. Go on.
Yeah, it's something we definitely take into account. There's only 6 balls on the court, 5 in cloth. Not everyone is going to have a ball in their hand at every time. I mean, you need to play middles, you need to play corners, you need to be able to play everything. You need to play one-on-one. If you're not used to doing any of that stuff, you might want to consider working on it.
Nice. Jeremy, for since this is your first Combine and experience as a scout, now what's something you saw that you think that people don't really realize at the Combine? Like, for somebody who's not there, for somebody who's just hearing us talk about, like, wow, this is so cool, and we put them through it, we put them through that. What's something you would share with the people at home about what it's like?
It was really refreshing to see the camaraderie. Ultimately, these players are, competing for the same spot, but at the end of the day, they're all trying to improve. And the end goal ultimately is to grow the sport. So it was really nice to see everyone looking for tips, willing to give feedback, trying to improve, and everyone understands kind of the larger goal here.
Nice. Awesome. Anybody else have any advice for people who are watching from home, wondering what a Combine is like and some of the experience?
Yeah, I think one final thing to kind of put in here is to keep in mind, like, your dodgeball heart and your dodgeball mind. You're gonna have a short memory. Like, if you don't make the right play to start the day, the next play's coming up really fast. So get off the court. Next time you're back in there, just make sure you're focused and trying to do your best. Make sure you keep a good attitude with your teammates. Make sure your decision making all day is on point, and really just bring in that fitness Brett was talking about, and then also think about, like, strategy, how what attitude you keep, and how you're thinking about the game as you're playing or watching.
I love it. I think that's great insight for anyone who's watching, who's kind of wondering what the experience is like. Before, you guys still have tough decisions to make, and I'm going to let you get to it soon. Last question, anything you guys are excited to see at Worlds this year? Besides obviously 6 gold medals. Is that what you're gonna say, Mark?
I was gonna say domination.
Sorry, I took that for you. Go on.
I think the thing that I'm most excited to see is I think we as Team USA have an idea what it takes to be a gold medal caliber foam team. I want to see what it takes to be a gold medal caliber cloth team. I want to see how the team we put in stacks up. You know, we've got a lot of variables in terms of the style of play, the ball, a bunch of variables. So I'm interested to see the people that we fill into that slot. Can they keep that quality or caliber that it takes to be, you know, wear USA on your chest?
Nice. Anybody else have any final thoughts? Oh, you guys are so stoic. All right, well, that's our men's scouts for Team USA 2022. Again, they've got tough decisions to make, but we just came out of a great combine, and you know, their track record speaks for itself. So let's keep it up, and let's show everybody that, just like you said, we're going to dominate and bring back gold 6 times. Woo. There we go. All right, thank you guys so much.